Hi, my name is Charla, and I am the Executive Coordinator for Mood Disorder Society of Canada. This evening, I have Clay Williams with me, who is the organizer of Canal Pursuit, and I'm so excited to hear what he has to say. Clay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. As Charlotte said, I'm Clay Williams, the founder of the Canal Pursuit for Mental Health, and I live in beautiful Elmira, Ontario, with my wife and our little dog named Duncan. And yeah, I'd like to run long distance for fun.
So, what is the Canal Pursuit for those that may not know at home?
The Canal Pursuit is roughly a 700-kilometer run from Port Severn along the Trent Severn Canal, more or less on foot, to Trenton, and then across to Kingston, and then along the Rideau Canal up to Ottawa, finishing on Parliament Hill. Um, for the past few years, the Canal Pursuit for Mental Health has been a relay with a bunch of relay runners running 10-kilometer segments, one after another, for a week. But the first couple of years, I ran the full distance myself. And I'm glad that it's a relay now and I don't have to do quite so much running.
That makes sense. That sounds like quite a long run to do by yourself, for
For sure.
sure. What inspired you to start this mental health initiative relay run?
I guess there's kind of two components. The first is getting up to being able to run that long of a distance. So I ran my first marathon in 2005, and um, each year since then, I've dedicated my longest run or my toughest run to a charity. As I progressed past marathon distance into ultra marathons and multi-day runs, in excuse me, in 2015, I did the first Canal Pursuit with the intention of it being only a one-time thing. I was going to do this run for mental health, and then the next year move on to supporting another area. But um, as the year progressed and I was planning for this run, the more I learned about the way that um, the mental health care system is structured in Canada, and the stigma around mental health issues, and all of those things, I realized it needs a lot of work. So I've stuck with it. I've been a mental health advocate now for 7 years. I think it still needs work.
For sure, for sure. That makes sense, and it's a great thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
How did you start to come to run marathons in the beginning? What made you interested in running?
I first started running. I guess I was in my mid 40s, and I just kind of wanted to stay in shape. And a buddy of mine, a coworker, suggested that we run a 5K race, and I hadn't run a race since high school, but I thought it sounded like probably maybe kind of a good idea. So we ran this 5K race. We trained for it and executed the race plan and crossed the finish line. Nowhere near first place. I think for the first two steps after the whistle blew, I was in first place, and then the whole crowd passed me. Um, but crossing the finish line of that first 5K race was amazing for me. I'm kind of a um, logic. I'm not sure if that's left brain or right brain, maybe left brain. Logic, black and white. I made the plan, I executed the plan, I got the result. That was amazing. So I looked for the next race, and I found out there are longer races than 5K. So I progressed through 5K, 8K, 10K, half marathon, full marathon. Um, and after running my first marathon, I heard about these ultra marathon things, um, and So I ran the next year. I think I ran a 50K race. Oh, and then I heard about 100-mile races, and then multi-day races as I progressed through those. So I think through that whole time, I've been kind of amazed at a couple of things. The personal development. So I've been able to get physically fairly fit, I think, and uh, I've been looking for, I guess, what is the limit? What is my personal limit? How far can I really go? Um, and yeah, I guess through that whole process, I found I can go pretty far. And I think that one of the really good things that I learned in doing such long distances is that um, the limits we place on ourselves are are kind of artificial. We can push past them and find out what our real physical limits are, but there's got to be some motivation there, right? But it was a progression from 2004 when I ran my first 5K to kind of get in shape, and my first marathon in 2005, and then the Canal Pursuit about 10 years later.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't personally imagine running such great distances. So it's inspiring for sure. From going from your original 5K all the way up to this now 700-kilometer relay run that you do, what is the hardest part about running such a length, a long distance?
Um, it's kind of hard to say. There are quite a few hard things about it. So to run, for example, to run a marathon, the amount of training um, miles that have to be run to run a 26-mile race is quite high. So what for the 700-kilometer run I did, like the first Canal Pursuit, in training I ran probably around 3,000 miles, probably close to 5,000 kilometers in my whole training plan over a year and a half. So that's just getting in those miles, deciding on that cold February morning that I'm going to get up and put my shoes on and run out the door. That's kind of
Uh-huh.
that's kind of a hard thing. But if you miss very many of those training runs, you don't get the result that you're looking for, right? But I think there's there's quite a lot of pain involved. So there's a lot of fun in running the first few kilometers and the last few kilometers as you're getting close to your goal. A lot of the rest of it is, let's say, pain management. So it's not injury; it's just kind of soft tissue stuff. If you've ever worked retail and stood on your feet for 8 hours and your feet get really achy, imagine running on those feet for 8 hours. Everything gets kind of achy. So it's not really injury. It's just um, annoying pain. I think one of the difficult things is convincing myself to keep going through that pain when everything is telling me to sit down and take a rest.
And you've definitely earned that rest
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Not that rest is earned, but it must take a lot for sure to keep going in those moments.
Yeah, for sure. A focus on the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some other things that you do to maintain your mental health other than exercise?
Um, let's see. I love to ride a motorcycle. I recently did a long motorcycle road trip. Um, and I guess riding a motorcycle well, with today's drivers, especially in Southern Ontario, definitely takes some focus and um, some level-headed thinking in order to stay safe and all of that. But also, I do mechanical work on our cars and the motorcycle. So I like to spend time in the garage, um, fixing things. I've got a 1948 Harley in pieces in my garage that I'm slowly putting back together, and that's a good break for me, and keeps things on an even keel.
For sure. That sounds fun, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, you're usually the one doing the interviewing on People Talks. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about People Talks, what exactly it is, how it came to fruition, and what the most impactful interview that you've had on there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, People Talks is talks with real people. So I talk, I guess. I do a lot of talking. So I talk with people in the mental health and or fitness areas, kind of because I've come from a pretty supportive running community, and that running community has some pretty amazing people, and a lot of people who run see the mental health benefit and of that physical activity. So there's kind of this natural connection, physical health physical fitness and mental health. But the People Talks was kind of inspired by a couple of things. One was um, COVID-19. Believe it or not, people were being um, uh, shut-ins and not being able to socialize and get out. So it was an opportunity to talk with people and get people um, in front of an audience to hear someone that they maybe haven't heard before. But also, a good friend of mine, Lisa Browning in Guelph, who's the publisher of the book I wrote, um, is a huge proponent of um, sharing, the power of sharing your story. And I've known her for a few years and had an opportunity to speak at a few um, speaking venues that she has helped organize. And from that, People Talks kind of came organically. So connecting physical health, mental health, sharing your story, the power of sharing your story, and kind of putting that all together into a regular podcast. It had its initial growing pains. The initial plan was to do it once a week, and then once a month, and then whenever we could find the time in a busy schedule to set up a talk and record it and do all of the editing and get it posted. So it's been a bit of a hiatus the last little while, as I've been working on a couple other projects, but it'll be coming back. I've had some great feedback about People Talks. There have been athletes and therapists and counselors and a pretty wide variety of people in the 25 people that I've spoken with so far. A couple of the most certainly the most memorable people I've spoken with are Kristen Strackeryan, who's currently a city councillor in Kemptville, just south of Ottawa, and she has served a military career and has come out of the military and is in the in the private sector now. But it was a really interesting conversation that gave a little insight into some of the things that um, the military are doing for mental health, and an area where mental health is really important. Um, Also, another person that I spoke to that's really close to me is Debbie Bolton. She's a friend of mine. We do a lot of hiking together, and um, she has reached the summit of six the six of the highest peaks. So the highest peaks on six of the seven continents. Um,
Oh.
and Mount Everest is next. And she's just an amazing athlete and so humble and easy to talk with. It was just a great interview with her.
I have watched quite a bit of your People Talks episodes. I haven't seen them all yet. That's the goal, though, and I enjoy them immensely. So I can't
All
wait
right.
for you guys to come back with another episode.
All right.
Um, and so you do a lot of talking about mental health, and you've had many conversations over the years. You're going on your 8th year of the Canal Pursuit. How have you seen the conversation around mental health change over the years? Have you noticed a difference in the way we speak about it?
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think certainly my viewpoint has changed a little bit as an advocate now for mental health, as opposed to what I was before. Not that I was against mental health, but anyway, as an advocate for mental health, as opposed to someone sitting kind of on the sidelines, I'm I initiate a lot more conversations about mental health, but I also see a lot more discussions about mental health in the media, not just mainstream media, but social media as well, and that's significantly more airtime than 8 years ago. And just a really specific piece of evidence, let's say, is that in obituaries in newspapers and online, you see the word suicide now when you would not see that 4 or 5 years ago. If someone's brother died by suicide, it was a sudden death. It wasn't a suicide. It just didn't get talked about the way it does now. Yeah.
That's good that people are starting to become more open about the conversations because mental health does deserve that attention. Mental health is physical health. And
Mhm.
what is one piece of advice that you would offer to someone who is experiencing mental illness?
Um, Talk to someone you trust. That can be hard. I know for teenagers, it may not be your parents. It may be someone outside the home, someone that you trust. Yes, someone who's got your best interests at heart. Um, and I know when you're struggling and in a deep dark place, you really don't want to talk to anyone. But in those times when you can, um, it can help. I know my wife and my daughter both talked with good friends of theirs, and eventually it was suggested that they talk to their doctor and eventually found help, found treatment. Yeah.
And on the flip side of that coin, what piece of advice would you offer to family members that are best trying to support a loved one who may be dealing with a mental illness?
Yeah, listen. Take the time, make the time to listen, and without judgment. I know that if you've known someone for a long time, um, anxiety and depression can be really well hidden. There are people who have lived with those conditions for a long time and have learned how to put a mask on, right? So we have expectations based on that mask that we've seen for years. But um, yeah, try to listen without the judgment that mask has brought on. Keep an open mind and yeah, listen without judgment.
That's good advice. And I'll bring it back now to Canal Pursuit as we start to wrap up. And I'm just wondering what your favorite memory is from all this time you've been doing Canal Pursuit from the runs.
Um, there's so many. It's been 7 years. I think I listed a couple here. Most frightening, seeing a bear like really close, just north of Aurelia a couple years ago.
Oh wow.
Um, um, the best food. I think the Chinese restaurant in Frankfurt, I think it's a Riverside restaurant in Frankfurt. We look forward to the Chinese food every year. It's awesome. Um, One of the things that really sticks out in my mind is the year that the search and rescue team in Trenton um, arranged to have three of their members jump out of an airplane and parachute down near the starting line before they started their running segment. Um,
Wow.
but I think we that was that was that was hard to top. I think the most memorable thing is the first year that I got to the final locks. It was the I was a little late and I was probably a little delirious. I'd taken some painkillers because my leg was killing me, and all the way through the run, my crew was taking really good care of me. I had an awesome support crew, and I would see them every 10 kilometers or so. And they, every time I left them and started running again, just before I left, they'd say, "What do you want at the next aid stop for food or anything?" And they always had everything ready. So I started just asking for "Thunderstruck," the song by AC/DC, because I just wanted to hear "Thunderstruck." I think I'd seen Battleship or something, and it was on Battleship. Anyway, um, had a couple really weird renditions of Thunderstruck that were sent. But in the last little bit, I was running with Una Baudry, and her and her husband had seen AC/DC the night before they ran with me, and she had on her iPhone um, Thunderstruck. So she was playing Thunderstruck as I was running up to the last locks in Ottawa, and it's a memory that's really stuck with me. And now every time I hear Thunderstruck, I'm almost moved to tears because of that memory. And it's such a nonsense song, right? But yeah, Thunderstruck.
That's amazing, though. I mean, it's a motivational song, right? Kind of,
Mm-hmm.
keeps you going. So those are some really neat memories, and I
Mm-hmm.
bet they will stay with you a while. And of course, there's more to come. Um,
For sure.
we have the link down below for people who want to support the Canal Pursuit. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any kind of last words that you want to say, or anything in closing to the people at home about why they should support, or keep the conversation going about mental health?
Yeah, for sure. So the Canal Pursuit runners are, I think we have around 30 runners this year. So if you go to that website, you'll see all of their names. We've got a couple of teams set up as well as a bunch of individual runners, and uh, quite a few of those runners have run with us several years. And I know one of them has run with me every year, even the first 2 years when I was running solo. She was not solo. I ran the whole thing, and she ran as a pace runner for a couple of years. But um, the I'm not sure if it's been made very public yet, but over the years, if you add up all of the donations that people have given in support of the Canal Pursuit, we're getting really close to $100,000, and we've been able to achieve that because of all of the amazing runners. Um, they're not just raising funds for the Mood Disorder Society, but when they run, they share to their feeds, social media feeds, and among all of their friends, and that plays a big part in helping to the end the stigma around mental health issues. Just keeping all of those conversations going, right? So take a look, tell your friends, and maybe we have a few 10-kilometer sections still open. So if you're interested in running, sometime between August 20th in Port Severn and August 27th in Ottawa, I'm sure I can find a 10K segment for you to run somewhere.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for joining me, Clay. It's been really great to hear about the Canal Pursuit. I especially really enjoyed your favorite memories. I can imagine that seeing a bear would have been a little bit intimidating. It sounds very intimidating, but the memories sound like they've been great. And also the work that you've done over the last 8 years, creating conversations, helping to break down stigma. I think it's amazing. So
Mm.
thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you at home, please visit the website, check out the event. If you can donate, do. But most importantly, create conversations around mental health. Don't be afraid to speak up. Reach out when you need it. And thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you.